This is the mayor of the airwaves. Another beautiful day in paradise. And Beverly, good morning, Beverly. How are you, Beverly Osler?
And I agree, it is paradise after having been up in cold Vermont. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, now on the line we have my nephew who's calling in from cold Connecticut. How's the weather up there today, nephew?
Good morning, Uncle Rhett. Happy birthday, Beverly.
Thank you, Michael. Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
It's James, 45, right?
Yeah.
James.
Yeah, yes, it is. It's fine. It's gotten a little cooler, 45 degrees this morning, going up to 51.
Well, that I'll be up to put on my sweater because everybody looks better in a sweater, whether you're skinny or fat. Isn't it true? Everybody looks better in a sweater. Now, listen, ladies and gentlemen, of course, this is my nephew, who I did not know existed until a year ago. I lost my brother on years ago in 9/11 and found out that, he had a live-in mate, Linda Leo, and what happened is apparently they had a child that I did not know about, and now he found us. You found us through, what was it, 23andMe, or how did you find us?
Yes, well, it was a combination of Ancestry.com and 23andMe.com, but DNA is definitely a game changer for us adoptees.
It's amazing. Well, anyway, so I have a bigger family now. I have James, I have his wife Liz, I have his son Jimmy, and his son Luke. How is Luke, by the way?
He's doing fine.
Good.
Fine. That was the right call they made. It was not appendicitis.
Wonderful. Now, you've invited a gentleman on the line today. I believe he's an author?
Yes, of multiple books, and he's also an adoptee, and he's a psychotherapist, Mr. Joe Soll.
Joe Soll. Good morning, Joe Soll.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us. Where are you geographically, sir?
I am just 20 miles north of New York City in a little town called Congress.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. My grandfather used to have a place on East 50th Street, so spent a lot of time down there. Do you frequent New York?
No. I don't. I just stay up here and practice my practice.
Oh, what is your practice?
Psychotherapy with adopted people and natural mothers also.
Well, wonderful. I don't know if James told you this, but I also was adopted. My biological father was killed in a car accident the day before my 5th birthday. I was adopted by a man who married my mom, but he was only around for 6 short years. But I was adopted officially, and then I got myself unadopted later on and went back to my original name. But how did you fall into this business, if I might ask you?
Well, by being adopted.
Aha.
There are, in my opinion, very few therapists who truly understand what it's like for an adopted person, or for a natural mother, for that matter, to deal with the trauma that they have inside their head all the time.
It's just like, have you ever done something wrong and you're wearing it on your shoulders, and finally you just go to the person and say, hey, look, I was a jerk and I'm sorry, and suddenly you're set free. Oh, as humans, we hold on to so much crap inside, and I'm sure as an adoptee, like yourself and James, and of course, I believe you said you were a black market adoptee, I read somewhere. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was sold in the black market as an infant. The part of the problem, or a big part of the problem, is that society does not recognize that us adopted people and natural mothers have pain. Our society is crazy for adoption and thinks that everybody wins. And so the pain of the loss of a mother or the loss of a child is not recognized, even by most therapists.
What is it that, I'm a regular person, I guess, that I didn't even think twice about this until James came into my life and my niece Cece. My brother also had a daughter out of wedlock, so it's been a wild 10-year ride. I have this extended family; it's phenomenal, which is a great gifting to a guy like me who didn't have kids. But I never realized that. You're right. As an American, I thought, "Oh, this is great. Let's adopt as many children as you can, and everything's fine and wonderful." And yet, you adoptees are pretty upset under the water here, just under the level of water. Maybe you could expound on that.
Well, let's change it a little bit. Let's presume that I was kidnapped when I was a day old. I don't think anybody would have trouble recognizing that there would be pain.
Mm-hmm.
Or for a mother whose child is kidnapped when the baby's a day old. I think people would say, wow, that's horrible. But as soon as you put the word adoption in, then people say that's wonderful, like you just said.
Yeah.
The loss of a mother or the loss of a child is a trauma that is just beyond compare. The pain of that loss is huge, and society doesn't want to recognize it for a myriad of reasons. Nevertheless, the pain is there, and there are about 16 million adoptees and natural mothers in this country. It's a huge number of people. And yet, so many cannot find help for their pain, and we need to find a way to cry about what we lost.
Well, now you have walked New York to Washington, D.C. 6 times for civil rights and adoption, and organized 6 additional rallies in D.C. What would you like to see, Mr. Soll? What would you like to see transpire? Do you want to end adoption as we know it, or what?
Yeah, I do. That doesn't mean there won't be children who need homes. Mm-hmm. There always will be children who cannot, for some reason or another, grow up with their natural mother, for example. But it doesn't mean we shouldn't try to find a way for them to stay with someone in their blood family. Other countries do this. There are countries that have eliminated adoption from within their shores. Belgium, Sweden, Holland. It doesn't happen. They give services to women who are pregnant out of wedlock or unfortunate circumstances, and they help them keep their babies. Why shouldn't we do that here?
Yeah.
Why not help people stay with their original family, if it's possible? Clearly, no child should grow up in an unsafe, unloving environment.
Okay, so you don't want to end adoption, but you want to educate the people, and that's why we're on the radio today, correct?
Well, I think people need to be educated, but adoption as it exists, I think, needs to be ended as it exists.
Okay, how so?
Absolutely.
To stop separating mothers. Let me go back. To stop coercing women who are pregnant without the right circumstances. Stop coercing them to give up their baby. Instead, help them keep their baby. I think that's the first step.
Well, also, I was a believer. I was into Eastern religions when I was a teenager, and up until 29, I really didn't have a religion. And then I had what some call born-again experience, and I know that's a pejorative term in our society because it means I want to beat you over the head with a Bible, which I don't. But I did have a marvelous experience. And, of course, at that moment, when I believe I had an infilling from a power greater than myself, I suddenly realized that, for me, that abortion was wrong. And the same thing traumatizes women. And no one tells the women that when they have abortion or they have adoption, that this, for, I guess, 9 out of 10 times, it's going to grind on them, correct? I mean, when James, I know that your mother, Linda, who I was friends with when I was a teenager, and she is the one who gave birth to my nephew, and my brother was his father. Well, anyway, you catch my drift here, right?
How can it not hurt to lose a baby?
Yeah.
Right.
No matter what the reason is, no matter how it happens, how can it not hurt?
Because, there's a natural thing in a woman that nature puts there, God puts there, that she wants to embrace her child, protect her child. I think I don't know about you guys, but I would say I had a very close relationship with my mom, and I would say the greatest friend you have on earth generally seems to be the mother, and for guys like you who were snatched away from the loving arms of the natural mother, it's just like we know now so much is chemistry. It's amazing what is chemistry, and I'm sure that a child has. Reads different fragrances or things that are gained from the mother's milk, etc. All these things, and this, you're snatched away from it, and they know now. Like I had a debilitating disease the first 3 days I was born, and it's always worried me because they say people that are snatched away from their mothers, totally without love or affection, sometimes become these people that are mean to animals and people.
Baby's favorite things in the world: the sound of mommy's voice, mm-hmm. the taste of mommy's milk, mommy's smell, and mommy herself. and all of those things are we're removed from those things. Our mothers are removed from us too, because mothers' favorite things are exactly the same thing: baby's favorite sound, baby's favorite smell, etc. And that loss is huge, and way down deep in our unconscious mind, all that pain just sits there. Well, and it affects us, and it's horribly painful, and it's really hard to get anyone to acknowledge it. You said it earlier. Oh, you're adopted. Oh, that's so wonderful. How lucky you are. We have to pretend that we're happy.
Let me ask you this. Now, you became a psychotherapist, and they say most people get into the business you're in because they, first and foremost, they want to analyze themselves. And you having, and that's a good thing, because we go through problems and then we can help others. But what do you do about the trauma of separation of mother and child? And how many years have you been a psychotherapist, if I might ask you?
Since 1990, so.
Wow.
27?
27 years, yeah. Wow. So you've been helping a lot of people, I hope.
I hope. That's what I try to do. Look, trauma therapy in and of itself is very difficult therapy, and the trauma of separation of mother and child I put at the top of the scale. It's not that other things aren't more painful, but because it's not recognized by society, this becomes adoption trauma therapy becomes more difficult to handle. What you do is you help people talk about what they lost, help people find a way to cry, to recognize that their feelings matter. Most of us are afraid at some point, or growing up, are afraid to even talk about our feelings for fear of hurting our adopted parents. Yes, I can imagine the guilt that people experience. I remember as a little kid, I used to go to the Dairy Queen opened up in our town, and I made friends with Mr. and Mrs. Smith, who owned the Dairy Queen. Well, then to the left of them suddenly came this Carol's Hamburgers. This was the first competition against McDonald's. They failed and went out of business nationally. But at this time, Carol's Hamburgers. Now, I wanted the Carol's Hamburger. I would trudge, this is a true story, folks, I would trudge through the woods because of my guilt, with my legs getting bleeding from the thorns and stuff, because I didn't want Mr. and Mrs. Smith to see me going to the Carol's Hamburger place. And the only way I could get that was either go by their window and go to Carol's, their front of their store, because it was on a main highway, or go through the woods. And I chose to go through the woods. So I can't imagine what it's like for you guys. You have these people who have extended their homes, their love, and the last thing in the world you want to do is break their hearts, right? Well, it's a question of hurting their feelings, which we believe on some level is, if I hurt their feelings, they're going to throw me out. Oh, yeah. Because I don't know what happened in the beginning for my first mother not to keep me, and I sure don't want that to happen again, so I have to walk on eggshells. Let me ask you this. As a psychotherapist, I want to know this. They say when someone dies, like I lost my dad day before my 5th birthday, or when something goes wrong, they say, what did I do wrong that daddy left? Or if there's a divorce, why do children always blame themselves? Could you expound on that? Yes, because to a child, the world revolves around them. It's called being egocentric. Mm-hmm. So that anything that happens to a child, the child is going to believe it's their fault. And this is, as we grow older and we become more logical, we can see that that's not so. But usually us adopted people believe that it's our fault that we weren't kept in the first place. We don't have any other way to look at it. You know, and people may think this is mumbo-jumbo, and you might say, oh, just get over it and climb over the mountain and move forward in life. And there is a side of us. But I want to tell you something. I've been seeing a psychotherapist like yourself down here, father of 11 children for, I guess, about 10, 11 years now. And when my mother had become an alcoholic till I was 15. And so he started telling me stuff that this is about your mother. And I stood up and said, screw you. This is bull crap. You're here just trying to make money off of you. And it was like I gave him the finger and I was about to walk out, but I sat down. And it's funny because, you know, I mean, in time, I listened and I learned and opened up all those doors that had been shut solid and the walls that I had built, and found out, yes, my mother not being there for me as an alcoholic, as a little boy, I had to be the adult throwing out the booze. So, you know, but what's helped me is to know that now.
So if there's a woman in my life that maybe keys something off that reminds me of the abandonment that I experienced, and that's why I guess people who have been adopted. James, I mean, have you been through psychotherapy like this man teaches?
Sort of. We've gone to a therapist to correct issues that resulted from the reunion to my marriage. Mm-hmm. I found a lot of help just by being, honestly, Facebook is negative in a lot of ways, but I've found a lot of use for Facebook with the support groups. I'm in a lot of adoption support groups, including Joe's, and I found a lot of healing in those groups and a lot of information that's been helpful.
Oh, so it's comforting to find someone else feels the same way you do. Instead of feeling like you're out on an iceberg all alone, someone else has been there.
Oh, God, yeah, yeah, and it's a pain that I kind of just buried for 46 years of my life, and it was pretty amazing when that door opened up to that section of my mind, and I was able to realize that pain. It was not, there's joy in the reunion when you have a good reunion, but I think there's always pain associated with it too, because you start to realize things you never considered.
Well, we have a doctor who's not a psychotherapist in our family now because of your side of the family, and he had told me when I was up there a few months ago to visit you in Connecticut that this is a different James than he ever knew, that you actually were very diffident, reticent, shy, or backward, not really expressing yourself, and that this whole process now has really brought you out of your shell, so to speak. He didn't use those exact terms. I'm embellishing here. But one thing I want to do is the gentleman, Joe Soll, is it Dr. Should I be saying Dr. Soll, or is Joe okay? Or?
No, I'm a clinical social worker, so okay. I am a psychotherapist, and you call me Joe.
Okay, so Joe, there are people listening right now, and I just want to bring this up because somebody may be having to get out of their car, or they have to be going to get ready for an appointment. I want to make sure that we promote your website and your books. You have 10 books. Could you tell us about, first of all, what is your website, and what are some of the books you've written?
The website is adoptionhealing.com.
Adoptionhealing.com.
Right.
Perfect. And what are some of the books, if you might give us the titles?
Well, they're all adoption healing, a path to recovery. And there's one for adopted people, there's one for natural mothers, and then there are two that are for both, the crossover. And then the book for mothers was translated into Korean, and the book for adoptees was translated into German. And I published my autobiography, which is called Braverman, and that's my original last name. And then I have 3 mysteries.
Oh, really? 3 mysteries. Does it have anything to do with the adoption, or is this just...
Yes. Yes, they all... The first one is all about adoption, and all 3 have to do with human trafficking, which is something that I have a huge problem with, because I know it's a worldwide epidemic, the number of people, babies especially, that are sold. Mm-hmm. All over the world, babies are a commodity, and it just makes me furious. So I woke up a little bit in those books about it.
You know, I don't know. Humans just never fail to shock me that they actually take prisoners. I think in China it is now, and they could even give them life in prison, or they can shoot them, and they choose to shoot them, and then they immediately take their organs out of their body and ship them over to wealthy people in America or Russia to save their lives. It just is. We found that happen with the Planned Parenthood in the United States of America, that they were selling the placenta and they were selling these baby parts. I just don't know how people sleep at night. You know, Joe?
I don't know how they do either, but again, my focus is on the babies that are taken and sold, and it's really ugly that babies are stolen from hospitals, and in many Central and South American countries, babies are stolen from their mothers in public markets.
Oh my word!
Somebody just grabs a baby and runs off.
Now listen, we're going to take a break, but we're going to continue. Okay, gentlemen. Now, yes. Folks, go to adoptionhealing.com. That's your address, right, Joe?
Yes, AdoptionHealing.com.
AdoptionHealing.com.
Right, that's one long word.
AdoptionHealing.com. And this is a man who has the credibility because he was adopted himself, and he can help you through it, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to uncover the darkness and bring these adoptees to light, and adopters, and us, the people. Okay? So go to AdoptionHealing.com. You and I in a series of getting and staying healthy together. This is the Mayor of the Airwaves.